Welcome, everyone, to the Credible Nerds podcast. We're here again with my fellow adventurers, my fellow archaeologists, Blake and Nathan. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
Awesome. My name is Justin, and we're here to talk more about Indiana Jones, the Indiana Jones saga.
You call me Dr. Carlson.
Yes, Dr. Carlson.
Doll.
So if you haven't guessed, we're next up in the series is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And we talked a little bit about it last time about what we're kind of our history with it, like as far as ranking and what we had some ideas about it. And so we're going to get into the movie and how our opinions have stayed the same or maybe changed. And then we'll rank them there at the end. But we will talk about, again, the different characters and kind of the themes of the movie, what we liked about it. And hopefully you guys find that enjoyable. We want to thank everyone who's been watching our videos and who are recent subscribers. We want to thank you guys for joining us that way, subscribing to the channel. If you haven't already, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. We appreciate that. It helps us out. It doesn't cost you anything. So that'd be awesome if you did that. So if you have any comments on the videos, definitely do that. Like the video. That again helps us out. So we'd appreciate that. So thanks.
Yeah, Blake. I know you haven't subscribed yet, have you?
I'm going to see how it goes for a while.
Yeah.
I'm
Just testing the waters.
Yeah. Slow to commit.
Yeah. So, but yeah, first off, the Temple of Doom was released on May 28th, 1984. So we recently passed that anniversary date. So 84, that's 19 years ago, right? No,
Yeah.
39 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Where have I been?
A little longer. I wish it was 19 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 39 years ago, we saw Indiana Jones around this time. So,
Crazy.
I saw it in theaters with my parents. Kind of talk about their reaction a little bit later. Where did you guys see it? Or you talked about it before.
Yeah, I saw it at a birthday party with some friends. And
At the movie theater?
yeah, because, hey, PG movie, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's for kids.
absolutely. I distinctly remember seeing Raiders at the movie theater. I don't recall seeing this. I don't have a specific memory, but I'm sure I did. I'm sure I saw it in the theaters. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. So this movie made just a little over 333 million in that worldwide in that first year, and it came in the U.S. It was third in the U.S. behind Beverly Hills Cop and Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay.
That's a good grouping.
With Beverly Hills Cop being number one, I didn't realize it was that popular. I mean, I saw it, but I didn't realize it was like number one movie in America
Yeah.
at the time. So
I saw Beverly Hills Cop. It's like,
yeah,
it's a gooder.
Yeah. So, and then worldwide, it made it into the top 10 of all time that year. So, pretty big deal back then. The movie is a prequel to Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. That happened in the year 1936, and Temple of Doom was 1935. So
1 year.
That's only 1 year.
It
Huh?
takes place 1 year before Raiders.
So what happened to poor Short Round?
yeah, we'll
Just
get
1 year.
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So, all right, and like Blake alluded to, this film and Gremlins brought about the PG-13 rating.
Oh,
And
I didn't know Gremlins was part of that.
It's that Santa Claus story.
Yeah.
Is that the one where he gets stuck in the chimney? Spoiler.
Spoiler. And it was the dad.
The dad.
Spoiler. Double spoiler.
Yeah. And so
And they
PG-13,
barbecued him.
they started labeling
Turn
it.
on fire and something's not.
Sorry, Justin.
That's a different episode.
That is.
I think we'll just do 80 movies.
Hey, man.
80 movies
All
series. So, but yeah, that PG-13 ranking started 2 months after this was released, so that summer. And what was the first PG-13 movie that was released officially?
I thought it was. No, it wasn't Temple of Doom, but it was. This movie was like a catalyst for the movie that did.
Yeah.
What was it?
Red Dawn.
Red Dawn. Really?
Another classic.
It's a good one.
Patrick Swayze, bunch of high school kids
Yeah.
shooting Russians.
Yeah. That was the movie back in the day.
in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Yep. We were all convinced
No,
that
they were in
was
Colorado.
going to happen.
Oh, Colorado. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the name of their group?
Wolverine.
The Wolverines.
Don't you still, as you're driving
Oh,
through
yeah.
a rural area, say, if Red Dawn happens, I'm going to that cabin.
I grew up in a rural area, so that
Yeah,
was
you
like,
did.
I was like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
right, guys.
Kind of
Yeah.
looked a little bit like Carbon County,
Yeah.
some of that area.
You're looking up in the sky for those Russian parachutes
Yeah.
every weekend coming down.
Please come. I need some adventure in my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, Indiana Jones.
You and Patrick Swayze
Jennifer Grey.
and Jennifer Grey. Yeah.
Leah Thompson.
Leah Thompson was in
Ooh.
it. Yeah. Great cast.
Getting ahead of ourselves.
All right. So, Indiana Jones, the overview. Indiana Jones, played by Harrison Ford. Kate Capshaw played Willie Scott. Ki Wei Kwan made his film debut in Short Round. But they arrive in India after the opening sequence. Indiana Jones is asked by desperate villagers to find a mystical stone and rescue their children from a thuggy cult practicing child slavery, black magic, and ritual human sacrifice in honor of the goddess Kali. So that's kind of the overview. Different take. I think what made Raiders so good was the Nazis. There's a tie to Christianity and Jewish religions that people could relate to. I think that kind of helped it as well, because God saved them at the end. A lot of Americans could relate to that. But this totally different take on things, a lot darker, a religion that's not well known in America. But this movie I believe was banned in India because of the kind of the negative stereotypes that it portrayed. So
Now, is the religion Hinduism, or is it the thuggy cult type?
yeah.
If that's, I mean, I don't know if cult is the right word. They use that in the movie, I think.
Yeah.
Or is thuggy a mainstream religion?
I don't think so.
And this kind of made it look like it wasn't.
It was a real thing back in the day. It says thuggy are actions and crimes carried out by thugs, capitalized thugs. Historically organized gangs of professional robbers and murderers in India.
Oh, so probably not a religion.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like a mafia kind of the thuggy, kind of a.
They did originate in India. So. All right. So anyway, for me, seeing it with the Indians and the thuggies and all this stuff, it was a little different. I didn't relate as well to that part of the storyline. Did it have any effect on you guys as kids? I mean, or even adults when we did the rewatch?
I mean, for me, it had some elements. It was like a little less familiar, and so that was kind of like, I don't know, what's the word? That intrigued me a little bit. Exotic, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so it dealt with certain things that you're like, oh yeah, we'll talk about this probably a little bit, but like voodoo dolls and kind of the black, dark, sacrifice and things like that. And so those are all pretty titillating things. As a kid, I was like, I'm in. This is cool, man. I can't believe they're letting me watch this show. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Bring on the voodoo dolls.
Yeah. Drinking blood and all sorts of stuff.
It wasn't any more or less foreign to me than Nazis or any other kind of group. So, I mean, I didn't have any, it didn't cause me to pause when I was watching it. I'm like, oh, these are the bad guys, but of course, I don't have a lot of knowledge of that culture at that time. But I was just, whatever you showed me, it's
makes sense. I guess I was 7 at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just took it.
Came out in 84?
8. I was 8.
Yeah. 84. So I was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
What month? Oh, I was 10. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Well,
let's talk about the opening sequence, though. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, what'd you think? Did you like it? Did you think it was weird? Did you think it's like?
I liked it. It came out. I mean, I didn't really make the connection the first time I saw it, but definitely as an adult, it was more James Bond than the previous things. And I think when Lucas and Spielberg were talking about doing it, Lucas was like, "I got this movie idea. It's like James Bond is an archaeologist, so there was like a influence there, and here we see it with him in the tux and all that stuff.
The white tux, the white jacket,
Yeah.
And the opening number, and it's in Shanghai, right? Yeah. The only thing that threw me about that whole opening sequence is just when the camera goes into the dragon's mouth, and then they're like, am I supposed to be? Is the audience supposed, like in the bar, are they seeing this? Is this like a dream sequence?
Yeah.
What
I specifically looked for that this time.
What is this?
And it's a room back behind the dragon head.
Right.
And none of the audience, unless there's audience back there, and none of the guys in the bar saw that.
Yeah. So like, are we supposed to assume like the curtain got drawn back and everyone in the audience is seeing this? Or is it more like, hey, we're trying to like use your imagination as a viewer, just like use your imagination. This was kind of typical 30s, 40s Hollywood kind of entertainment, big stage production. Yeah. We can't really, the location doesn't accommodate that, but we wanted to kind of present a kind of a theme here so that you could kind of interpret it as you will. And the other thing that threw me though was the fake sparkles all over the screen.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was like, what is it? And the girls that were dancing, were they like the Rockettes or just some random dancer people?
A bunch of Americans, blonde Americans, right? That were just there. So I don't know. I think it was a fantasy element.
Yeah. Without
being like a fantasy movie.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. Yeah. I liked it.
I think that's what it was for.
It didn't take away from the movie for me compared to the Raiders at all. I'm like, this is cool. I like it.
Yeah. It was a great change up for sure.
So, okay. So since we're on the subject, all right. So he shows up, he sits at the table. He's like talking to these guys. They made a deal, and he's like, we want the jade sculpture with the remains in it.
The Emperor.
Yeah. And Willie comes over. Long story short, the point I'm trying to get to is he's like, the deal's for the diamond. And I'm like, okay, is this, I thought he was like an archaeologist, and he's like, he's doing this for money. Like he's getting artifacts and he's selling them. I didn't quite understand that. So I think I did a little bit of digging. What is that? Was he doing it just for money or for the diamond, or was that diamond? I think there's some fan service to the diamond to try to make it sound like it's more than just a diamond. But did you look that up?
So the diamond originated with Napoleon and was lost. And so there was a Young Indy Chronicles episode called Treasure of the Peacock's Eye.
Yes.
So him and his buddy, then Remy, a French soldier or Belgian soldier, they're off on a mission. They come across this map. They're like, oh, it's a map to find the treasure of the Peacock's Eye. So they start to find it, but they never go anywhere with it, so they give it up. And so that's kind of the illusion that we get in that episode. And that episode was made after this movie in the 90s.
So was that like a retcon situation where they're like, hey, let's give this diamond some background, some history?
Because that was in World War I where they're looking for that.
Okay.
But it ends up being a wild goose chase, and they don't go anywhere with it.
So they kind of retconned it to make it look. He's not just going for a diamond; he's going for this artifact.
Yeah. It's lost archaeological artifact. Of course, it's a diamond worth lots of money, but
all right.
So, and then in the future, There was a book that came out, The Lost Journal of Indiana Jones, and it's kind of his thing about the adventures. You can read about it. And in 1959, there's an entry from Short saying that Short Round has located the diamond, the Peacock's Eye, and it's somewhere in Hawaii, and he's going to go try and find it.
Oh.
And that's the last we hear of Short Round. That's the last we hear of the diamond. We don't know what came of it or anything.
Interesting.
Because at the end, this is the other part, because I love the whole opening sequence, but he's like, he didn't get the diamond. He didn't get it. And when he's getting in the plane and he's like, see ya, Lao Shay. Like, he's like got this big grin on his face. Like, he's like getting away with the girl and the diamond, which that's a whole nother conversation. But like, I'm like, what has he got a big grin on his face? He doesn't have the diamond, and he no longer has the artifact that he got to exchange for.
And one of his buddies got killed.
And his best friend got shot and killed.
It's all worked out really well.
Yeah.
His buddy Han.
So I was like, I don't quite understand that part, but and then why did she get on the plane?
Yeah, why is she scared?
Why?
Yeah, because she like had a life there. She was a primary
Lao
entertainer.
Che was his boss or her boss.
Yeah, why? He grabs her. They jump out the window, but then why when the car stopped? Why didn't she say, "Adios, see ya"?
Yeah,
I'm going back to the club. I've got to sing again. And
it's like that Stockholm syndrome or something.
Yeah.
You know, he kidnapped her and.
Yeah, I mean, did he? Did he just basically kidnap her? Because I'm like,
well, she didn't put up too much of a fight.
Why does she get on the plane? I don't understand that.
I think maybe she realized he's not a good guy, and she doesn't want to work for him anymore.
She did see a few people get skewered, and
they were trying to kill her.
Were they?
Yeah. Because he was close
in the car chase.
Yeah,
she was close to Indy. So
I don't.
Yeah,
but the only thing I can think of is like. Because she's like, Lao, she put 2 holes in my dress, or he's like, and he's using her as collateral, like, give me the antidote, and he's like, take her, I'll get another girl, you can have her. So that may have been when she's like, oh, okay, well, in that case, I guess I'm out of here if you don't think I'm important, or if who knows. I just assumed she was an employee and a singer. I don't know if there was anything more to it, but I was like, even with that, I still didn't understand why she got on the plane. Why with Indiana? Like, where she didn't even know where he was going.
True.
So like she just like, oh, by the way, we're getting on a plane. Okay, fine. Where are we headed? Yeah. Like I didn't get that part.
Yeah. So I think this opening sequence kind of shows Indiana's failures, because that's how it was with Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Mm-hmm. He gets the idol, but then loses it to
He didn't get
the French guy. Yeah. And so again, he goes after the treasure. He doesn't get it. And then in Last Crusade, he does get it.
Yeah. And it kind of like cements that whole scenario where he's like, that moment when he's cocky, like, I just won, like, see you later, Lao Che, and then he closes the door, and you know he's in a bigger mess than he was before.
Yeah. So
okay, so obviously we had some Easter eggs, right? The name of the nightclub was Obi-Wan.
Club Obi-Wan.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then did you catch who? Obviously you did. Everyone knows this by now, but. So they pull up to the airport, and he's like, they make it sound like the person who meets them, and he's like, oh, I got your flight. They made it sound like someone called ahead, so they must have stopped and he's like, I spoke to your assistant here, so they must have stopped somewhere, because
I think that was just his pre-plan before he goes to the club.
Okay.
When he's ready to leave the club, he's going to get an airplane.
I buy that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But that was Dan Aykroyd, which I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. Like to see Dan Aykroyd in that. Yeah. To play that role real quick.
Yeah.
But then I don't understand. Shay's like, they shut the door and he nods to the pilots, and that little nod means fly over the Tibetan mountains and jump
crash
out
my plane into the side.
Jump out with parachutes and crash my $100,000 plane into the side of a mountain. That's what that means. Not like, hey, while
just
they're
don't take off.
Yeah,
stop.
Yeah, Or hey, can you like while they're sleeping, knock them out and throw them out the door or something?
I think if I had that much money, though, I would totally do that. Right?
Maybe, yeah.
That would be well worth the money.
But just so you guys know, if I ever give you the nod, that's what it means. Like
fly the plane and crash it.
Yeah, jump in a plane, fly up above the Tibetan mountains, or and jump out of it and crash my plane.
Yeah. Okay, so
but leave a raft.
Indiana Jones as a character. So this is pre-Raiders, but I don't think there's much difference between how we see him now and how we see him in a year in the story-wise.
Yeah.
I think he's pretty much the same, right?
I would agree.
But I think we do see some character development throughout the movie. I mean, at the beginning, when they crash land in India and meet the guy, and he takes him to the village and they explain the plight that they're in. He's like, okay, well, we're going to New Delhi, or we're going here. And he's like, no, you need to go to Peacock's Palace, which is that way. And he's like, I don't want to go that way.
Yeah, that's the opposite direction.
Yeah. And so when he finally does decide there, he's like, well, I'm going for fortune and glory.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to, get some money out of it. He's not thinking about rescuing the kids.
No.
Or saving this village. He's doing it for his own purposes.
They specifically say that term. He says it. Short Round says it. Willie says it. They all say, oh, you're going to do this just for fortune and glory, which is like not like a good reason to be doing this.
Yeah.
But his motivation, though, doesn't appear to be academic.
Right.
It seems to be more motivation by greed. Mm-hmm. That's what I got.
Yeah. So, that's a good point. So if that's the case, then we do see a different character than we saw in Raiders. Well, Raiders, he was more academic.
Yeah. Well, and there's a scene when he goes and he gets the stones, and then he hears in the background the noises, and he kind of goes to leave like, I got what I came for. Yeah. Who cares? And then he pauses and it kind of is that evolution a little bit.
Yeah. But maybe the fortune and glory is not like, I'm going to bust this open and get the diamonds out, but more like academic accolades. Like, I'm going to get these stones, which there's these legends, and I'm going to discover that they're real, and I'm going to showcase them to the world, and people will be like, and then he'll get recognized and recognition and sell books and do all these things. Who knows? Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
But
yeah, cool. And I think, like Blake said, as the movie goes on, he starts to realize, hey, there's more to it than just the fortune and glory. So we see that. And I think Short Round had a big influence on him too. I think that's one of the reasons why we have a Short Round in this film, because he knows, like, I think he's kind of thinking, well, if Short Round is the same age as them and he was captured, I would rescue him.
Yeah. And Short Round is an orphan. His parents are killed. He's living off the streets. He has rescued him, so to speak, which is a whole nother interesting story. Was he planning on keeping him forever? Or just saying, all right. Yeah. Thanks for all the help.
Thanks for the adventure. Yeah.
Well, so Short Round's story was his parents were killed in a Japanese bombing of Shanghai. So he's on the streets. Indiana Jones, like he said in the movie,
captures him.
He's trying to pickpocket him, so he grabbed him. And him and that Han guy that got killed in the nightclub, they worked together in Shanghai. They were Indy's contacts for China, Asia.
Gotcha.
So he did have a life there and was taken care of, it sounds like.
Gotcha.
So, and then he comes into this movie, and I think Short Round is the humanity. He brings humanity to Indy as the movie goes on. That's how I saw him.
Did you say that the waiter, his friend, the waiter who's undercover, who gets shot, did you say his name was Han?
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. Yeah. I never knew. Did
you
know that?
I mean, I did. I glossed over it. Like, that's a common name. So, but that's kind of a little.
Well, not only is his name Han, but he gets shot, and we all know that Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to get killed. Mm-hmm. He thought the character should die in the second movie, and this is the second movie, and Han got shot.
Killed.
Interesting.
I never knew that.
I'm trying to find what his last name was, but I can't see it.
You better be Han Duo.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Is that can't be a coincidence?
I would say no.
And did this movie come out? So this movie came out in 84. What year did Empire come out?
Empire was 80, Jedi was 83.
Oh, so this came out after Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
This movie did.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
That is a pretty good connection. I didn't make that connection until you just said it. Yeah.
Maybe that was just an homage that Harrison Ford was like, I always thought Han should get killed. And so they killed Han.
There you go.
In Temple of Doom.
Yeah. Yep.
I wonder if they had to have planned
Yeah.
that.
If they're going to name a character Han, right? That's an overt thing.
Yeah.
A conscious decision.
Yeah.
And then they kill him.
And then he's like, we've been on many adventures,
Yeah.
but I'm going on the biggest adventure of them all.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that when I get shot.
You're going to say,
I'm going to be like,
help me get some.
I knew I shouldn't have come to the club with you tonight.
Blake, you're going on a new adventure. No, I'm not.
Blake, you and I have had a lot of good times.
Shut up. Get a doctor.
But you know what? Guess what? You're going to be dying soon.
You're going first.
You're going first. Lucky SOB.
Yeah.
See you later. You're like laying there looking.
What are we? Why are we talking about this? Get some.
Why are you still standing here?
Yeah. Put some pressure on it.
Right. So, what'd you think of the flaming?
Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, right.
The shish kebab.
The flaming shish kebab.
That seemed like.
I loved it.
I did too, but every once in a while I'm like, and this is like this guy also teaches archaeology at Oxford or whatever.
Yeah.
And then on the weekends he throws skewers of meat through people's hearts.
Yeah.
And then I was wondering as I watched it, maybe he wasn't even aware of the situation. Maybe he was laughing at something else entirely.
Yeah.
And just took that to the heart. Big misunderstanding. I don't know. But
yeah, he skewered that guy. And Lao She was like, I assume that was his son.
Yeah.
That he had both
The two
sons
sons.
were on either side of him. And Lao She, when his son gets skewered, he doesn't really like, oh, my son. He's just like, gosh darn you. And everyone, go get him.
Kill
and
him.
he runs into the kitchen to go get more bad guys.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really seem all that upset that his son got skewered with. But whatever.
He's a gangster.
Yeah.
yeah.
He doesn't care. Yeah. So we are introduced to Willie Scott. What'd you guys think of her? We talked about her introduction, which was cool.
Yep.
It was great. We talked about her how she got from the club to the car to the plane. As far as a character goes, is she one-dimensional? Is she a damsel in distress? Is she comedy relief?
All of the above.
Yeah, I say yes to
Yeah.
all of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife said, is this the one with the girl that screams the entire time?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to watch it.
And that was my opinion of her before this movie, before I did the rewatch a couple days ago. And it is there, but it wasn't as bad as I had remembered it. Like it's inappropriate times.
Yeah.
Bugs are in her hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People getting their hearts ripped out.
Yeah.
She's next. So it's not like she's just, that's all she does.
No.
During the right times, of course, I would probably be screaming like a girl too.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's kind of like the beginning of the, like that opening sequence, kind of the back and forth, that was the tone of the movie that they set. And that was their relationship, kind of the arguing, the bickering back and forth, but kind of the playfulness around it. And so I'm with you. There were a couple of times, when we talk about the couple of things that, drawbacks for what they're worth, that's one is, sometimes she kind of crosses that line a little bit too much, but But also, as I watched it, I'm like, this is good. She plays a good role.
Yeah, I think she is exactly who she's supposed to be. She's an entertainer. She's has
Hollywood.
Nice clothes. She's Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably never ridden an elephant before or been thrown and had bugs crawl over her. And she's not a. I wouldn't describe her as a damsel in distress. He's not,
kind of a reluctant sidekick.
Yeah, he's not constantly rescuing her.
True.
She's just exactly as you said. She's just kind of got dragged along for the ride, and she's like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, I didn't have a problem with, and I appreciated having an opposite of Ravenwood, of Marion. Yeah, I, in this particular movie, which a lot of this movie was. It's like, hey, let's take things in a different direction and see. And I enjoyed it. I didn't have a problem with her.
Yeah. So you mentioned Marion. Does she have an impact on Indy like Marion did? Like when Marion died, or air quotes dies.
Oh yeah.
The Raiders. Indy was sad, depressed for a bit. Do you think? And that's partly because of their past, but do you think if Willie were to have died, or he thought she died, would that be?
I think he'd be upset just like any other human being would be upset, but he definitely didn't have the connection with Willie Scott as he did with Marion.
Kind of the history, that wasn't there, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely liked her more this time around. I think we do see her grow as a character throughout the movie. Towards the end, she gets more confident, and she's helping solve problems instead of complaining the whole time about their situation.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you think about it, I mean, she goes from being like a star performing one night to like 2 nights later, she's crawled through bugs and,
I guess
all
he
of the
does.
above.
I guess he does rescue her. I just realized, actually, he does rescue her.
When she's getting
lowered
into
well, he also put her in the thing too, so
that's
his fault.
Yeah.
just another.
I guess, he does rescue her once, but she rescues him.
But she rescued him right back, right?
Yeah. She rescues him a couple times, right?
So if we'd gotten a second story with her, I think we'd see more character growth. I think she'd be more than just.
But I'm glad we didn't.
You wouldn't want to see her again?
No, I think her character and her role was perfectly designed for this movie and for that period of time. But I wouldn't want to see her doing the base, even if they turned her into something a little more like tougher and more capable and more of a partner versus a reluctant sidekick. I'm like, no.
Okay.
I liked that they moved in a different direction for the third movie again, and again different from Marion and different from Willie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, I can buy that. I think for her, she was fish out of water.
Yeah.
This life we've talked. This adventure was new to her. While with Indy and Short Round, it's like that's what they do.
Yeah.
So I thought she did good. Short Round. Real name is Wan Lee. He worked with Wuhan, so that's his name.
Wuhan. Still
we still called him Han.
Yeah. Totally intentional.
So he's the trusty sidekick. He's the surrogate son. He's Indy's conscience. It's kind of how I saw it. How did you guys perceive Short Round as throughout this movie?
I hated him. Short Round is my favorite. I mean, Othello should have had Short Round.
Yeah.
Like he's awesome.
Yeah.
He brings that comic relief and honestly, he's a pretty complex character in himself, And I kind of kept thinking, man, this is like a little. What is he, 8 or 9 years old, and he's that guy. He had a good, believable, like human character. I don't know. Pretty impressed, actually.
Yeah, and as kids, when we first saw it, at least for me, I was able to relate to him a lot more in the beginning, like in those years. First couple times I saw it.
Sure.
Yeah, it kind of made it more accessible to like youth. Like, this is an adventure I could be a part of.
Yeah.
Cool.
Again, I liked him, but again, for this movie, right? I wouldn't have wanted to see Short Round in a third installment.
Really?
Yeah. And that's not a criticism against, I'm just like perfect for this movie, but I don't want to see Harrison Ford tied to a kid. I just, I'm glad that each movie's.
You said that about marriage in a previous one,
No,
right?
I didn't.
I don't want Indiana Jones getting married. I don't want him having any baggage.
It was
true.
it was not Indiana Jones. It was Tom Cruise. It was
Mission Impossible. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys, I mean, once they settle down, to me, it's like,
There's no conflict.
yeah, they're like, there's conflict. No.
Yeah, different kinds.
That's not what we don't go to movies to watch married guys sit on the couch and watch TV. That's what we do, right?
Yeah.
Like we go to the movies to watch guys do the things that we wish we were doing, and it's a fantasy. So you start marrying off those guys, it's just kind of like, oh.
Well, what if it was like Crystal Skull, where instead of his son Mutt, he reunites with Short Round and they go on this Crystal Skull adventure,
Yeah,
where he's older.
I would have been okay with that.
A reunion of old friends or something.
Because he would have been older and he would have played a different role. He wouldn't have been the spunky little kid, comic kid. He would have been this capable adult. And maybe they're like, they go their separate ways, and then he's like, and then like the backstory is Harrison or Indiana like pays for him to go to university, and he becomes an archaeologist.
Well, he does do that.
Yeah,
that is the story.
Oh, okay. And then they reunite, and then they go on an adventure together, and he's like this.
And they do that.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Comics or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That idea I like. I just don't want the third movie to be Harrison Ford and another little kid.
Yeah, there's got to be progression, or it becomes too repetitive.
Exactly.
That is what made this kind of cool. I can't think of another relationship like this in the movies. Up to this point, like where, Harrison Ford and a kid, and it works, and it's fun, and it makes sense and stuff.
Yeah, I love it for this movie. Just don't want, if they had done it if they had another Willie then to me it would have been like just part 2. It would have been like, instead of a standalone story that's a completely new adventure, completely new character.
It's weird though, because on the other side, I've always felt like in these types of movies, like, well, wait a minute, what, like, where did all those relationships go?
Yeah,
this has only been a year. Like, that's weird. And
it is weird.
Like, even like Mission Impossible, we were talking about that. It's like, well, wait, where's his other team? And then now his team's been the same for like 4 or 5, and so it's like, I don't know. Sometimes it's both sides of it. I like the new thing, like moving forward, but I also kind of go, wait a minute, what about getting the band back together? But
even in the Mission Impossible, the teams do, there's some players that stay, but there's other individuals that leave and get replaced with different characters. But yeah,
a little bit.
But since we're on the subject, like when Last Crusade and the bad guys were the Nazis again, I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh, we're going back to the Nazi thing. I actually was kind of like, oh.
But then in Crystal Skull, you're like, I wish these Russians were Nazis.
They were Nazis.
No, well.
I think Dial of Destiny has Nazis again.
Yeah.
The upcoming one.
But that's that whole era, right? But I was a little, I remember when Last Crusade came out, and I'm like, oh, Nazis again? I'm like, oh, well, all right.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because the reason because Spielberg wanted to bring back Marion for Temple of Doom, but then Lucas was like, no, we got to have a new character, different direction.
Yeah.
The audiences don't want to see the same thing over and over again. So I think that applies. I think you're making that point.
Yeah.
And I agree. I want to see something different.
Yeah. I'm glad. Not that I did, and it has nothing to do with that I didn't like those characters.
Right.
I just want to see all the different perspectives of his life.
Yeah, his interaction with all these different.
Yeah.
Well, and it'd be interesting, because this is a prequel. It almost makes more sense. Like the first show or the first movie is that kind of damsel in distress, whatever, and then the second heroine's like more of a hard boiled,
right.
And anyway, in that order, it almost makes more sense. But
Yeah.
Okay. Next character, Mola Ram. He's
the guy
just
is
the bad
awesome.
guy.
Yeah.
He played a pretty good. He was a pretty good bad guy.
Yeah.
He was, scary.
Yeah.
He had his plans, and he's executing them literally.
Yeah.
Religious tyrants.
He doesn't have a lot of dialogue. There's no monologues.
I'll give him this. Even as he's about to kill Indiana Jones, he still refers to him as Dr. Jones. I like the formality is still there. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a scene. I mean, there is a scene between, Harrison Ford or between Indiana Jones and him. They talk briefly, right?
Yeah. Like when he's getting the blood.
When he's getting the voodoo blood drinking. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple plot. He wants all the stones.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean,
he wants to bring back his cult.
He wants to bring back the cult. He wants all the stones. The stones and one of them, and they're supposedly, some of them are buried in that rock there, right? Because there's supposed to be 5, and they've only have 3.
Yep. All right. So some of the themes throughout this movie, as well as in the previous movie, God and religion. And the Indians believe that God sent Indy and his friends to help them fight the evil, bring back the Sankara stone, and rescue the kids.
No.
And Indy's like, no, we just crashed.
Yeah, no, plane just crashed.
Just happenstance. But I don't know. Where do you guys sit on that? I think there's some divine intervention there.
Oh, do you?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you survive a plane crash in a raft that goes somehow from the
top of the mountain,
icy tops of the mountain to tropical river in 30 seconds, then there's some divine intervention,
Okay, so let's talk about it. All right, because I had made a comment when all this whole thing started about how unbelievable there were things in Crystal Skull. And then you said, and the raft flying out of the airplane, you didn't have a problem with that.
Was that me or you? Because
it's probably me.
I'm buckled in. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And in fact, I'm going to check for rafts every time I get in an airplane.
So that scene, it looks legit. Like a raft really got dropped out of a plane.
Put a couple of bags of salt.
They had some dummies. I don't know if they had dummies in there, but it looked like it really landed and then just starts going down the mountain. Right. Now, and I watched it and I was like, totally could happen. Totally believable.
You do a Mythbusters
Crazier things have happened.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, totally could happen. Except for and this is what I love about these movies is the practical effects, right? Even though some of them are like, okay, that's obviously not real, but still, they show Indy and Willie and the camera's right in front of them when they're in the river in the raft, right? And you can tell like there's guys with sponges just throwing water and they're like pretending like they're in a river, but then they show the raft going down the river. I loved it, and then the going down the mountain and the ice, but when they hit the canyon, and then it goes down,
it's like 500 feet drop.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Was that a matte painting or what? I mean, how do you think they did that? Because that just looks like
it looked fake,
obviously fake.
Yeah, I think it was a matte painting.
Yeah,
like they dropped it off something, and then they put the matte painting behind it.
Yeah, but. And even the way the raft goes down, it's like, and then they switch the scene and just like gingerly lands in the water. Yeah. So, but what did you guys think of that? So you buy in at all?
Well,
right?
I mean, I'm not like that totally could happen, but I'm like, it makes sense. I can detach myself from enough
to be like, sure,
to
why
be
not?
Like, yeah, perfect. That's awesome. That's fun to watch. That's cool. And then. There's the scene like they finally get into the river and Indiana Jones says, well, that wasn't so bad. Yeah. And then they go off so it all plays just fine for me. I like it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Rewatching it, I didn't have a problem with it. didn't have a problem with this one. So whichever one of you said was like, when I said Crystal Skull, that's not believable. And then you're like, what, and you believe the raft? The answer is yes. I have no problem with the raft. Absolutely. That still is believable.
I agree. So, but I believe it was divine intervention that they were able to survive that fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no other way it could happen.
Absolutely.
So, the Thuggies, they have a god that they sacrifice humans to, right?
Yeah.
So they have a belief in God, in a god.
And again, the name of the god is
Kali Ma.
Kali Ma.
Mm-hmm. And then the stones, they seem to have power, a real power.
They glow.
They light up.
They can be activated with ritual words. And then,
I mean, the only really hint of power is the village has one, that they don't have more than one. They have just the one. And when the stone was removed, their crops died and the animals died and there was a famine. But did the stones, did that one stone provide that power to their fields and crops and animals?
they believed it.
Yeah.
Because wouldn't you need more than just one?
I don't know.
Because the idea was like, you get them together, that's when the magic comes out, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, when they recaptured the one stone and brought it back, the village was green.
Yeah, already. Just knowing they were coming back.
There, yeah.
So was it the stone or just like karma?
It was faith.
Or maybe they just needed to double check their almanac.
You saying what Indiana Jones did doesn't even matter to the story again?
Maybe they just misread the almanac and got the rainfall wrong or something. I don't know.
It had a power that saved them.
All right.
So we see the evil nature of this group's worshipping of Kali Ma. Indy comes under the influence of drinking the blood, right? So there was some evil power at work there.
Yeah.
And he's does Mola Ram's bidding with following orders.
But is that I don't look at that so much as magic as just like being drugged.
I think it's like a trance or something, you know, like
hypnotism,
the whole voodoo kind of thing. Okay. Yeah.
Well, is voodoo evil? It's a religion.
Bad mojo.
Mm-hmm. Is it evil or is it just neutral and depends on the person and their intent? Or, I don't know enough about voodoo, but
it's not voodooism. They have the doll, but voodooism is really a real religion. This is more of a thuggy cult. It seems like this would be different.
So how do you explain that the kid could stab a pin into the thing and cause pain?
No, I'm not saying
to be divine power.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying, voodooism is
voodoo like. This isn't necessarily
right.
I wouldn't call it voodooism because this isn't what that was. Because voodooism is a real religion that's practiced in other parts of the world, even though that still had a doll that had the same impact.
So you say it's like a thuggy version of
that's all. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there was some power there.
Yeah.
As we saw in the movie, right? The kid had faith that he could cause injury, and it happened.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm not saying I don't believe it, but I don't think I would think the Black Death drink thing would be like a narcotic type of drug effect kind of a thing.
But they also, there was the chant along with it, so I just think that's black magic, kind of dark, whatever it is, spell, whatever, everything mixed together.
Okay. When we first see him take the drink, he fights it, and then he sits up at the end, and he kind of smiles. My first thought was, oh, he beat it. He's okay. And then he's just acting for now. Like when we see him later in with the lava room or the idols and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just playing along with it until he puts Willie Scott in the
cage
thing, and then like, oh, he's really under the influence here.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any thoughts like that, or
I didn't think he was faking. I thought he was high. I thought he took a drug. He took a drug.
I thought he was enjoying it.
Yeah, he was like he was tripping, and he took a drug, and he's just like in a trance, and he's like bought into like.
So he would do something evil. when he was
he's
high?
not to use your own words. He was under the influence.
See, and I think it's a spell. I think it's dark magic. It's not.
Because when people get under the influence of
do you
marijuana,
need to drink? Then couldn't they have just said the chant and still have him be in the trance? What's the purpose of the drink?
Well, I don't know.
To become under the influence of Kali Ma.
Yeah, it's a ritual, right? And all rituals have
he's possessed
things that you talk about and things that you partake of. And
I'm not going to say you're wrong. I just have a different take on it.
Fine.
But I'm not saying you're wrong, and I don't think you're wrong. I just have a different take on it. That's all.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because that was my impression. So I was like, what's your guys'? The same, different? Yeah. That's so. I like talking about that stuff. So Indiana Jones and Willie Scott's relationship was a theme throughout the movie.
Yeah.
At first, it's just survival. We got to get away from Lao She for whatever reason that we talked about earlier. Why did she get on the plane?
Yeah.
And she's there. They aren't friends at first.
No.
She hates him. I think
Burnt
she
my
even
hand and
says
I broke my nail.
Yeah.
Broke a nail.
Then as it goes along, there's that moment in Peacock Palace where they flirt.
Yeah, kind of whoa.
Yeah, it changed.
It flipped quick. But before we go there, I mean, I don't know what your plan is, but are we not going to talk about the meal, the dinner, the table?
We can.
All right.
Yeah.
Totally should.
Yeah.
Because my favorite character is that guy who I don't even know why he's there, but he is there for the snake surprise. That big old dude with the big mustache. Like, the guy doesn't eat. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway. So what was your favorite course that they served?
Oh,
what was the most creepy was the chilled monkey brains.
Chilled monkey brains.
Yeah. When they brought the heads out and they lift the top of the skull and you hear this come off, the sound, and they stick the spoon in it. And so it's like, chilled monkey brains or something like that. Yeah. And the bugs, and they're that whole thing, that whole scene grossed me out. Yeah. But I love it. I loved it. But there's some that I bring it up because there's some interesting dialogue between the English and Dr. Jones and I guess what would be maybe the Dolly Ma's
kind of right hand
personal
chief of staff guy.
Yeah, there you go, chief of staff guy. What's his
Prime Minister Chatter Lal.
Yeah, there you go.
And the prince is the little kid, and again, he's called
Maharaja.
Maharaja.
That's right.
And my favorite part of that is when Short Round waves at him, and he just turns to the side and yawns.
Yeah.
And I thought, that is so cold. I'm gonna start doing that when people wave at me. I'm just gonna be like, that was my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some interesting. We kind of get a backstory of the Thuggee, and it's a good way to juxtapose. Hey, this is the information you need for this part of the movie.
Yeah,
and hey, look at this crazy stuff they're eating, and here's the comedy.
Yeah,
so I thought that was good.
Yeah, it was good, but it was like if you knowing history, the English, India was under English rule, right? Yeah. And so put a little more historical context on it, and they're there, and they're palace is
there to make sure nothing's going sideways, and
the palace is supposed to have been abandoned, and Dr. Jones wait, there's a Maharaja back, and what's going on? I thought it was extinct or not abandoned, and all that religion was gone. Mm-hmm. So there's some history there. Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think about the Maharaja being a kid?
It surprised me, but then I was like, oh, yeah, it's going to be a kid. Cool. Yeah. Whatever.
I didn't like it. But
you wished it was an adult?
Or at least an older teenager, Young adult,
Yeah. What did you think when he started talking?
In English?
Yeah. Well, the voice.
Oh, yeah.
It was a little
high.
Little whoa. It doesn't match doesn't quite match up maybe, but I think and you're like, oh, okay. And everybody, everyone gets quiet. But I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, sometimes rulers in China and those are young sometimes. I mean, I assume from movies and things like that, 7 years in Tibet and whatever,
Yeah.
that sometimes that happens. And so I just thought, oh, okay. But I did like the kind of, the comedic element because, Willie was like, Maharaja, like, I'm going to hook up with this guy.
Yeah.
And then he's like 12 years old.
Yeah.
And Short Round kind of busts her chops on it.
But I love that whole sequence. And like, do you have a soup?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're like,
And she smells it. It
Yeah.
smells so good.
I think in the behind the scenes, like they had to like, they're like, we couldn't get the eyeballs to stop from floating. We had to like stick them down. And so you see her, she kind of sticks the spoon in the bowl and kind of digs them up. And then they all come floating up to the top.
Yeah.
Good gag, great gag. I love the whole sequence.
Yeah.
And what did you say? Every time you go somewhere, you like to say what? Snake surprise. What do you go to restaurants?
It's one of those. Anytime there's something that's a little weird. Snake surprise.
Next time
It's
I
one
go
of the
to
good quotes.
next time we go out to eat, I'm gonna ask the waiter if he has any snake surprise.
Or do you have just some soup or something?
Something simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any chilled monkey brains?
Yeah. Good stuff.
What a jerk.
So after dinner, they retire, and Willie gets her pajamas on. Nice silk pajamas.
Yeah. Where did those come from?
The Maharaja.
Did the Maharaj give it
The
to her?
elephant's trunk.
That's right.
Yeah.
Packed it in.
So there's some flirtation going on. Like
Yeah.
you said, it turns pretty quick.
Yeah,
did
they go from the jungle scene where they're like, she's running around screaming and
I
the
hate this
bugs.
place.
Yeah, I hate this place.
Hate you.
I hate you. Yeah, I love that scene. I hate you. Yeah, I love that scene. But all of a sudden, like, he's got a plate of fruit and he's like at her door. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I guess Dr. Jones is a bit of a player, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
So, did you guys buy that to make? I did. So.
I think they were back and forth the whole time. And
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure there was
she's
some.
good looking. He's good looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was that
There's
whole
fruit.
there's that whole
They're
opposites
hungry.
attract chemistry going on there. So I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah. So,
But I'm a guy.
Makes total
It
sense.
makes perfect sense.
yeah,
Totally believable.
I'd date her in India.
Yeah, she's crazy, but I'd
Yeah.
date her.
But as the adventure goes on, as they go in the tunnel and get captured and escape, they start to rely on each other more.
Yeah.
You start to see the relationship develop for what it is. And it could just be in this adventure, they got a bond to be able to get through this crazy time. And at the end, they admit that they're attracted to each other. Not like verbally, but
In that scene
At
or
the end.
later at the end.
at the end.
Oh yeah.
By the end, you kind of tell like they're going to check things out, explore things, see where it goes.
She's his greatest adventure.
Yep.
Hey, let's you and I check things out.
See where they go.
See where they
See
go.
where it goes. And then another theme, love and trust. We see it with Short Round and Indy.
Oh yeah.
Their relationship gets put to the test when he gets under the influence.
Under the influence.
Mhm.
Is what we're going on.
You could say magic spell.
Divine evil influence.
Yeah. Possessed.
Possessed. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
They get through that. And Willie and Indy also develop a type of trust as the adventure goes on.
Yeah.
So I think that's
I mean, he knocks Short Round. Does he backhand him or
yeah.
Yeah, he does.
backhands him pretty good? Knocks him
Yeah,
to the
that's a
ground.
hard scene.
Yeah. When he hit him like that, I was like, ooh, ooh.
He's under the influence.
No, that's not what I was thinking. But yeah, I felt like, ooh, that's pretty. To see an adult hit a kid in a movie like that, like, I don't know, that could be like one of those things that they're like that, and the guy getting his heart ripped out.
Yeah, that too.
Might have been the whole PG-13 thing.
Yeah. So
That was hard to see. Yeah, to see him smack him like that.
yeah. And then Short Round burns him with the fire. He comes out of the trance
Yeah.
and I think he said, "I love you, Indy," as he's doing it, right?
Yeah.
And then he realizes what happened, and they hug.
And that the "I love you" were the magic words. So it was a comment.
The fire and I love you.
The fire and I love you. Wake up. He said, "Wake up."
He did.
Yep. All right. Anything else with these characters we want to address before we move on?
No, we better get to it. We're probably already past our
Your bedtime?
Yeah.
Hour into it.
Yeah.
Okay, 5 favorite things. Do you guys have your...
You go first.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Let's see.
So the opening sequence, we've talked about that. The
Yep.
diamond and the antidote and the chaos. They're being kicked around. They're about to grab it and it gets kicked out of their hands. You know, all that. It's one of Lao Che's sons gets shish kebabbed. So we've talked about that.
Great opening sequence.
Definitely there.
I agree. Yep. That was one of mine.
Willie and Indy flirting the first night at Peacock Palace. We just talked about that. Short round, just his character. I
Love Short
appreciated it much more this last rewatch. I've always liked him.
Yeah.
I definitely liked him a lot more this time. And then Indy on the bridge and the tension. You know, is he going to cut it? Is that really going to happen?
Yeah.
It's pretty tense. And
Yeah.
you get like a 30-second where he's like thinking about it, and it's like, what's he going to do? And then he does it.
Yeah. I loved it.
And then the mine car chase.
Oh yeah, so good.
It is good.
So good.
And we alluded to it. I don't know if it was on air, but at least at some point we were talking about that jump.
Yeah.
There's no way they could have it. I saw that this time. I laughed. I was like,
right.
That's pretty cool. That's funny.
It's awesome.
Like I knew it was coming. I've seen it before. But it happened. I was like, okay, that's cool.
And so what you're saying is like totally believable.
Yeah,
Totally.
definitely
Believable. Yeah.
And there's a 1 in a million chance. So
Yeah.
I'm saying it could happen.
Could
Well,
happen.
you talked about divine intervention
Exactly,
earlier, right?
yeah.
It all comes together.
Yeah.
So those are my top 5.
All right.
Do you guys have any? Probably some similar ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So opening
different.
sequence for me, the whole, again, it's a real grabber, right? The singing, the dancing,
Gets right into the adventure.
And I love movies kind of like James Bond, Mission Impossible. There's like the beginning of the movie is kind of like the end of one adventure, and then then a whole new adventure begins. But it just grabs you, gets you right into the movie, right? So I love the opening sequence. I liked how they even were like, "Hey, we should do the whole Paramount Mountain," but this time they used the gong.
Yeah, that's cool.
The sound design. I love the sound effects on all of it. I liked all the animals. I liked the different direction with Willie. Everything we kind of talked about right there. I loved the practical effects, even though sometimes they were kind of corny. One of my favorite scenes is they're trapped in the room with the spikes coming down, and she's got to go down the hall, and she's walking on the bugs, and you see like the bugs crawling all over her. You can kind of and you can kind of tell it's not really a person because it's like a thing with a wig on. But I'm like, when you're a little kid, you're like, it just wigged me out. Yeah. But I have to say, like, I don't know why it just strikes me still to this day so hilarious. But like, she's reaching into the thing, and the hand comes out and grabs. She's like, "No, not your other right, your other right."
Yeah.
And then she's like, and then she's looking through it, and he's looking at it through it, and she's like, I can't. It's dark in there. And then he's like, "We are going to die." Yeah. That cracks me up every time. And then he just kind of like looks at her like,
"Come on."
And then she pulls it, she runs in, she leans against it, the thing starts coming down, they run through the door, and of course he wraps through and grabs his hat. That whole sequence was the best. Love the guy getting his heart ripped out scene. Yeah. So cool. I'm like, and then he's still alive. I mean, the classic, like, I'm gonna rip your heart out and show it to you. And you're gonna and then it catches on fire and he's holding it up, and the guy's like, and then they lower him.
And it self-heals, so you can't even put the heart back in. It's already...
And he's just like looking down, and he's still alive. And Indiana Jones is like, he's still alive. And I would like, he pulled his heart out. Like, how do you reach in and pull someone's heart out like that?
Divine intervention.
Yeah, there you go. And then the rope bridge scene. I loved that. Like, because you're like, in no way would I have thought that that's how, like, it was going to happen. Like, that he was going to cut the rope and they would all just go flying down. I would have thought, okay, how is he going to get out of this? You know, those are the scenes you love, is when you think of 15 different ways and none of them are right. And it's the one thing you didn't think of is what they do. And you're just like, that is amazing. That's so cool. I love it. Yeah.
Well, and the best part about it is it's like 400 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
But there's alligators at the bottom too.
Right.
It's like they can't just fall to their deaths. There's also alligators to eat them.
Yeah. And again, so they use dummies, but they put dummies with like a robotic arms and legs so that when they're falling, they would be moving. I mean, that's so great. Like, I love that they did that. And when they were falling, I mean, you see the one guy hit the side of the mountain and bounce off. You're like, oh my gosh,
that's gotta hurt.
Yeah. And then it shows the alligators rolling around. I mean, just great. And again, if I had any criticisms, and they're lame, is just kind of like, all right, for the time, there's some special effects that are like, okay, that's pretty obvious that's not real. But I mean, I'm embarrassed even mentioning them, because
those are my least favorites. It's like, you see the bridge, you see a wide view, and there's a small stream at the bottom.
Yeah.
But when they're doing the shot down, when they're on the side of the cliff, it's like this huge river,
raging
even further.
river.
Yeah, there's just like the first one.
A disconnect.
There's some continuity things that don't always match up, but you know, when they're in the rail car, and you can tell that's obviously a miniature, and those are obviously not real people. That's just like a miniature, and they're doing like stop motion or whatever they did and things like that. But
minor nitpicks.
They're yeah. I mean, come on, like, it's a great movie, man. It's a great movie.
What about for you, Blake?
So for me, the poker scene when they're playing poker, I like that scene because it's kind of really funny and human, and they're you know, accusing each other of cheating. They're both cheating, and they both owe each other money and all of that. That's just a cool relationship. So I think that's a pretty fun one. The dinner scene is cool. And then, you know, there's a scene with Moharam where, like, it's the most awkward thing in the world, but when he, like, lays down and goes in that trap.
Oh, yeah.
There's the laugh.
It's like, I love that. There's some really good scenes, like, where Short Round and Indy are both fighting, and it's like, you know, Short Round's fighting the Maharaja, and Indy's fighting, and they're back and forth, and they're fighting each other, and it's just like...
Yeah, we even talked about that.
All the shadow and all of the, you know, just the way that's filmed is really fun.
The guy getting crushed in the rock crusher.
Yeah, that was an honorable mention.
His sash in there. That's why you don't wear capes and sashes, right?
That's the same actor that gets cut in the blade in the plane from the first one.
That poor guy.
Yeah.
And the let's see,
the guys with the sword,
the swords, and
his gun, and it's gone,
and he's got to fight him, and then he chases him, and he gets up to a spot, and he does that pause, that iconic, and he turns around and runs back, and that's a great scene. Let's see. Those, I don't know. Those are the good ones. And then in the, you know, the chase in the mine cars, I mean, there's just all sorts of mayhem going on, and, you know, people throwing logs down, and mine cars flipping off into nowhere, and people, you know, crashing into scaffolding, and that's a great scene too. Yeah.
Now they knock over that water tower, right? Yeah. Was the amount of water that comes out at the end
there was a lot of
equal
water
to the amount of water that was in that
That was a lot of, yeah.
I mean,
It went, yeah.
do you think that was a little like
Excessive.
excessive? Like maybe they could have maybe like thought of another way to like, oh, there's a giant lake that were built underneath, and they.
Well, yeah, kind of at the end of it, they're going to a dead end.
Yeah.
You can just hang out for a while and then go get them after they
Yeah.
hit the dead end.
Right.
Like literally, there's a dead end and a wall and a cliff into water, and that's all, you know.
And they're like, and the water's coming, and the posts are shooting through, and they're like, okay, I'm pretty sure by the time that all that water got to where they're at, it just would have been a small little stream.
Small river.
Yeah, barely making it to the exit.
Yeah.
So
But that wasn't. That's not exciting though.
no, but that would be kind of like, all right, like you probably could have maybe thought that one better, because there's just no way the amount of water they showed barreling through those caverns was what was in that tower.
Yeah. And then, you know, like I think we talked about it last time, all the quotables, you know.
Oh yeah.
Like
Give us some of your favorites.
No Time for Love, Dr. Jones, We've Got Company.
Dr. Jones, No Time for Love.
Yeah. That's a great one. You know, the snake surprise, all those things that you can just say and everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You call him Dr. Jones doll.
Yeah.
And
Those are great.
everything Short Round says is fun. But
Yeah.
All right. For me, I couldn't get 5 least favorites, and the ones I did, most of them were just kind of lame.
Crocodiles in there.
But I didn't like the child torture scenes. I thought that was excessive.
Yeah, the kids getting whipped.
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot.
yeah, those guys seem to like their job.
Yeah, like us. I think him punching, him hitting Short Round, and those scenes. I don't know that you would see something like that in a movie today. Not without some sort of like big like pre-show warning that.
Yeah,
like,
they're warning us about strobe lights.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for real.
To see violence against a child, they'd probably be like, "Hey, this show depicts." I wonder if because these are all going to end up on Disney Plus. I think today or tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's today.
I think it's today. All the movies and the
young Indy.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and I wonder if they're going to put some kind of caveat to that.
Mm-hmm. And then I mentioned earlier the Maharaji.
Maybe they'll put walkie-talkies in their hands instead of whips.
Yeah.
Feathers.
The Maharaj guy being a child, I didn't like that. Talked about that. Crocodiles in the river, kind of talked about that as well. And then, the Indian children speaking English.
Oh, yeah.
When they're in the cages, they're like, what's going on? And they just, oh, yeah, let me tell you.
Oh, like they would just naturally know how to speak English.
Yeah.
I think and correct me if I'm wrong, so the kind of like the chieftain of the village, he didn't speak English. So I think the story is that someone would read him his line. And then, so when you watch that scene, you can you wouldn't have known it then, but he says a line. There's like these long pauses of silence. So Dr. Jones, he says something, and then there's this pause, and then the chief says his line, and then I think in the making of video they're like, yeah, that guy. Someone had to stand off camera and say like, okay, now say that, like read the line, and he would just repeat it.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like these kind of. You don't really notice it, but then when someone points it out, you're like, oh yeah, it's pretty obvious. Yeah. So, all right. So let's just talk about the general consensus. Like everyone says, most people say this movie was not their favorite, and because it's dark, right? It's got this. I really don't think it's a dark movie. I
do, but I don't think it's as bad as I remember.
As bad as.
Are they saying it's dark because it's literally in caverns and so it's dark, but it doesn't feel like.
I think it's the human sacrifice. The kids getting beat.
Yeah, kids getting whipped, child, and ripping hearts out.
True.
By the way, how many times did somebody do that to you?
Yeah,
after the movie
as a kid,
out, like
put their hand up to your chest. Pretty sure I've done that a couple times with my kids.
I know, right?
So.
I don't know. Maybe when I first saw it, I thought it was like, ooh, this is kind of like a dark, as you say, religious, dark, kind of evil, dark spirit type of movie. But
well, they're like in there, they're worshiping this, idol thing and chanting and the fire and all of that.
Yeah.
It's
I watch it now though. I don't I'm like, oh, it's not that dark, but maybe I'm just older and seen way worse.
I remember, I specifically remember my first time seeing it and came out and my mom asked me, what'd you think? And I was like, oh, it's so cool. The minecart, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, when I was like, well, what about you? And she's like, I hate it. Well, I liked it up until the human sacrifice and I hated it. I just couldn't enjoy the rest of it.
Oh.
I was like, okay. So when I first saw it, I loved it.
Yeah.
And I never really, I recognized those elements, but I never thought it was.
I didn't I didn't spend the rest of the movie fixated on that moment where that guy gets lowered into the lava.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Come on. It was water with a red light underneath it. I mean, I didn't. I was like, whoa! And even before he got to it, he catches on fire. I was like, wow!
Well, and I wonder, how it was marketed. Maybe I'll go home and watch some of the old trailers and stuff because, I mean, you saw the first one. The first one was, I mean, it had some violence and some things like that.
People's heads blown up,
but I mean, you probably watched this preview and it probably was like, oh, there's a funny little kid and there's this and there's this back and forth and there's, and then you're starting to watch. And as a parent, I've taken, I took Brighton to Doctor Strange, that Doctor Strange movie and was like, oh, yeesh, this is a little bit dark, and I didn't expect all of this. And so I can see your mom saying that, especially, back then, that 30, how long did we say? 39 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
That's a while back.
You bring up a good point though. I mean, when I saw the trailers for, the last Doctor Strange movie, I'm like, and they show Wanda, with what you thought was blood, because it was like this dark, it turns out it's oil because she's tearing apart robots, but it looks like blood. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I did kind of come out of there thinking, oh, I did come out of there with this little kind of an eerie feeling. And I guess so I do recall as a kid kind of like having that same thing, but I really like that movie. I like it more than I did, from
Temple of Doom?
I liked it more. Yeah, than when I did when I first saw it.
Yeah,
for sure. Agree.
So let's rank it.
Oh man, I don't know. I can't do that. It's tough.
It's hard,
yeah.
So I ranked it. I'm kind of in the middle since we're on number 2 of 4. I ranked it according to how I saw Raiders a couple weeks ago, however long ago that was. Mm-hmm. How I compare what I just watched a couple days ago with what I just watched a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Which one's better? But then I haven't seen the other two for a number of years. Yeah. So I have to compare it to those memories. And so my ranking right now is Temple of Doom number 1. And,
interesting.
Crystal Skull number 2.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Last Crusade 3.
What do you say yes for?
I just love it. This is fun.
He's happy that Temple of Doom's 1.
Oh
and
my
then
gosh.
Raiders is 4.
Come on.
Yeah. That's the dilemma, right? Because I haven't seen those other two for years. And I'm going off my impressions.
Okay,
my
so
memories.
Forget Last Crusade and Crystal Skull, and only Raiders and Temple of Doom have come out. Which one's 1? Which one's 2?
Based on current now feelings.
Yeah. You've never seen Temple? They don't exist yet.
Yeah.
And
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom's 1, Raiders is 2.
Second.
Okay. And we already know your answer.
Yeah.
We always know Temple is 1.
It is. But going back to what you're saying, it did not change. But watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, I was like, oh, this is such a good movie. But it's not as finely tuned. It's kind of got some spots that, I don't know, it just doesn't flow as well. And I think Temple of Doom flows very well. Like, I was like, wow, this is, there's no dead spots. It's like I'm constantly, I'm not thinking about, oh, that scene's coming up. It's like I'm involved like I'm just kind of engaged the whole time and stuff. Yeah. So that's kind of why I still like it the most so far. That's
interesting, because one of the criticisms when it came out at the time was, oh, it's just chase after chase after chase. There's no substance to the movie. Mm-hmm. That was like a big critique.
Raiders or Temple?
Temple of Doom.
Chase after chase.
And I was like, what? Well, even if that's true, I don't believe that's true, but even if it was, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's fast paced, right?
Yeah.
It's exciting.
What do you mean chase after chase after chase? What are they chasing?
There's the opening sequence, right? Then they get chased in the car. Then they get in the thing. It's just not necessarily chase after chase, but
they're just always moving,
on the move.
Always going.
Yeah.
That's great. That's what you want.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and there's kind of that traditional part where it's like, oh, is this the end? No, this isn't. Yeah. And now everybody goes back and regroups and blah, blah, blah. And then there's the climax. And this is just like, as soon as they take a bite of that apple, it's done. They go into the thing. He goes and gets the stones. He's about to leave, but then he just keeps going down the tunnel. And it's not done until it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's after Temple of Doom for you at this point?
It's going to be Crusade, and then Raiders, and then Crystal Skull as it sits today.
Okay. Huh. Was it is that how it was before at the beginning?
Yeah, but I'm anxious to watch The Last Crusade again because it's been a while.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Well, like with every time you make a movie, you always feel like there's this natural tendency to want to one up the movie that you just made, right? So obviously, when they did Temple, they're going to be like, okay, we've got to push the envelope here, do something a little, add more elements, have more action scenes, have more things that they're doing. I guess for me, I mean, I don't really foresee my ranking of these movies changing like you. I mean, I think Raiders will always be one, but not because it's my most favorite movie, but because of it just has that special place in your heart.
Nostalgia.
The nostalgia of it. And the very first time you're in that world and that universe and the impact that had on it. Mm-hmm. Temple of Doom is a great movie. I love it. It's kind of like with you. The first one you saw was Temple in the movie theater.
Well, and I don't even think, because I would have been 7.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I saw Raiders until after that. It was probably like I don't know, maybe it was one of those Disney Sunday movies one night or something, but
and you may have seen it, but you don't remember. I mean, it was 40 years ago.
And that was still early VHS. So and
all and the family TV was 24. It was like, we all had like 24-inch TVs, right? No one had a 60-inch TV, letterbox. It was just like, and it had commercials. Yep. If it did come on, you were watching it with in between commercials, which would take away from it. So
and I recognize the nostalgia, and I think it's a big deal. I'm ranking it based on, I'm trying to forget nostalgia.
And that's how you should do it, right?
Mm-hmm. So
well, you made the right choice. I agree.
For this week, we'll see next week.
But the truth is, to be told, I really view the first 3 almost the same. To me, it's Raiders, Temple, Last Crusade 1, Crystal Skull 10.
What's in between 1 and 10?
Gilmore Girls.
Alan Quartermain, man.
I just do not like Crystal Skull. I'm sorry.
I'm excited to watch that again because there are a few movies like that where I'm like, I didn't like it that much or what. And actually I did like it. I remember Marie and I went with a friend and he didn't like it. And I was like defending it out the way. Like, what are you talking about? It's another adventure with Indiana Jones. It was awesome.
Yeah. Look, it's not a bad movie. It's fine. It's just great. And it has some great parts. It's got I don't hate it. I really don't. But there's just no way
Nate
I will.
Just thinks the heroes should never get married, should never be tied down,
he gets
and should
married
never get
married.
old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's old, he's married, he's got a kid. Those are all the things.
Those things actually don't bother me. It's the whole interdimensional beings. Even Steven Spielberg was like, even he admitted that it was not a good idea. And I just have a...
But he also admitted, or has said, that Temple of Doom is his least favorite movie he's ever directed.
Ever?
I'm not sure about ever, but of the indies for sure.
Because he's made some bad movies.
Yeah, what about War of the Worlds? Oh,
that's good.
Did you like that one?
Yeah. I didn't mind. I don't not like War of the Worlds.
Yeah, I thought it was a good movie, but it was ugly. It looked ugly.
It could have been done maybe better, but when you're dealing with that source material, and that's a movie that's been done a million times by different people.
That's true.
What is his worst movie?
Didn't he do that? There's that one? Is it AI?
Yeah,
AI was all right. I like that.
I didn't really like AI.
When there's something like kind of ambitious, I kind of like it just because it's ambitious. Yeah.
Okay, so this is his quote. He said in 1989, "I wasn't happy with Temple of Doom at all. It was too dark, too subterranean, much too horrific. I thought it out-poltered Poltergeist. There's not an ounce of my own personal feeling in Temple of Doom."
Ouch.
Then he later said, "Temple of Doom is my least favorite of the trilogy at the time."
But he said this in 89.
I wonder what he'd say now, though, because I think it's aged well.
This is a quote from 89?
The first one was. The second one was from a documentary later on. So probably around the same time.
Yeah.
The greatest thing that I got out of that was I met Kate Capshaw. We married years later. And to me, that was the reason I was fated to make Temple of Doom.
Yeah. So, fate.
Yeah.
Well, with all due respect,
divine intervention.
Wrong.
Yeah. So that's interesting that he views it that way.
Yeah.
That's totally crazy.
But I mean, he didn't write it, right? That was all George, and did Kasdan co-write?
No, he didn't want to.
He didn't want to.
Yeah.
So is this 100% George?
No, it's the people who helped him write American Graffiti.
Oh.
I don't know how to say their names.
I mean, we all know that
out of 58. Let's see.
We all know that George Lucas said that he was getting a divorce during this movie.
Yeah, he just got divorced.
He was in a
dark place.
A dark place.
Yeah, screenplay by Willard Huke and Gloria Katz.
He directed an episode of Columbo.
Spielberg?
Yes.
It really bothers you that he doesn't like the Temple of Doom, your favorite movie.
I'm pretty pissed. Let's see here.
So, what would you say is Spielberg's worst movie, Blake?
I'm looking at him right now. Always.
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 Is that the one with Mel Gibson?
No. What's his name from Jaws?
Yeah. Dreyfus. He dies in a plane crash, and his ghost comes back or something.
Empire of the Sun, I haven't seen. Hook. People bag on Hook because it's not a great movie, but I love Hook.
Looks good.
It's okay.
I love Hook. I'm a sucker for it.
I guess my problem with Hook is I've seen it so many times.
Jurassic World, The Lost World, that wasn't great.
Yeah.
Amistad, that was good. Saving Private Ryan was awesome.
Schindler's List.
AI. Minority Report was fun, but
I like Minority Report, but
Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, really? Yeah. I like Catch Me If You Can. Do you like Catch Me If You Can?
No way. Okay. Didn't he do The Terminal? Let's keep going. The Terminal. That's the worst one.
Yeah,
that is the worst
hands
one by
down.
far.
Not even a close.
Oh, it's so bad. Munich was good.
That was post 1989. So,
which one?
All those.
I'm just curious what he thinks is Spielberg's worst movie. Mm-hmm. And you
Adventures of Tintin, War Horse.
I never even saw War Horse. Didn't War Horse win like an Academy Award for something?
I think so.
The BFG was okay. Ready Player One was good. West Side Story was okay.
Yeah.
Fablemans. I haven't watched the Fablemans yet. Yeah, The Terminal is the worst one. And Catch Me If You Can, everybody liked it, but I thought it was pretty boring.
So what didn't you like about it? You just
Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah, just slow. Just like
a little bit slow. And I have a love-hate relationship with Leonardo DiCaprio.
So that's personal.
Some of the things I like, he's in, and some things I'm like, why is he a star?
Yeah.
So
That's
there's
one of
at
them.
some point there's something that happened between you and him that
Yeah,
you
probably.
like, and it carries over into all his movies.
Probably.
Yeah,
But I love some of his movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
I liked Catch Me If You Can. I thought it was
I
fun.
did not like it.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I only saw it once. It was a while ago.
It's I definitely better than Terminal.
Terminal was
Yeah.
Terminal is a real.
That's when he's
snooze fest.
the romantic whatever.
Yeah. And even Tom Hanks acting in that one and the fake
Bad accent.
the bad accent, and
Yeah.
like it's just so forced and so bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, we want to thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Credible Nerds podcast as we talk about Temple of Doom. Next up is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that, kind of do the same formats, and then rank it at the end and see where it stands with the rest. So we want to encourage you guys to subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a lot. And comment, as far as what we talked about. Do you like Temple of Doom? Too dark? Too crazy? Too fast for you? Let us know what you think and reply in the comments, and we'll respond and interact with you guys that way. So thanks, guys, and we'll catch you next time.
Rituals. Nocturnal mating rituals.
Under the influence.
Creepy.